I am Randy Brothers, the rooferpreneur. Today on the show, we're going to talk about how leadership can change an entire industry and how we've built a platform to execute that.
Congratulations! You are tuned into Dov Baron's Leadership and Loyalty Show, the #1 podcast for Fortune 500 executives and those who are dedicated to creating a quantum leap in leadership. Your host, Dov Baron, is the founder of FullMontyLeadership.com. He's an executive mentor to leaders like you, a contributing writer for Entrepreneur Magazine, CEO World, and he's been featured on CNN, Fox, CBS, and many other notable sites. Dov Baron is an international business speaker who was named by Inc. magazine as one of the top 100 leadership speakers to hire. Now, over to Dov Baron.
Welcome, dear friends, fans, and fellow aficionados of leadership excellence. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Leadership and Loyalty Tips for Executives, part of the Full Monty interview series. I'm your host, Dov Baron, founder of Full Monty Leadership, and I'm here to assist you tapping into the one thing in your business that changes everything. To find out more, you can simply go to FullMontyLeadership.com. So let me ask you, in what ways do you need to up-level your leadership? When you think of leadership, most of us tend to automatically think of white-collared individuals sitting around in the office with baby soft hands. Well, what I'm about to share with you today will likely shatter many of the images and enlighten you, hopefully, on what real leadership is. So stay tuned. Now remember, you can chat about this episode or any past episode on our Facebook groups and our LinkedIn groups by simply going to Leadership and Loyalty Podcast in either of those places, LinkedIn or Facebook. If you're a new listener, new viewer, thank you for joining us. Strap yourself in. We're about to go full Monty. And as always, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you tune into podcasts. We always need your help in staying relevant, though, so please go over there, wherever it is, rate, review, and subscribe to the show. You can also catch us on traditional radio stations across the United States every Monday and Thursday. Also look for us on Roku TV, where there's over 100,000 subscribers. And if you're a regular listener, regular viewer, big thank you to you for making us the #1 podcast globally for Fortune 500 listeners, with a potential reach of 2.5 to 4 million listeners for every single show. We're honored and grateful to be cited by Inc.com as the #1 podcast to make you a better leader. You can also listen to us on Google Home and Alexa by simply saying, "Play Dov Baron Podcast." Again, thank you for sharing the show with everybody you know. My co-host on this episode is Mr. Joel Bauer. He's back once again, baby, bringing us all the goods. Joel is a high-paid consultant, influence whisperer, helping business owners, thought leaders to find what's stopping them and turn that very thing into their greatest advantage. His companies have helped many entrepreneurs build million-dollar brands from scratch. He also runs very high-end private workshops and masterminds that are superb, and you got to be there. You can find out more about him and his latest projects at joelbauer.com. That's JOELBOWER.com. All right, let's get back to the show. Let's strip it down and dive right in. Here we are great believers in the tenet that leadership starts within, and that it has very little to do with titles. However, I can remember having a conversation with someone I knew years ago who said that they couldn't even imagine themselves a leader just based on what they did for a living. Well, our guest today is turning many of those presumptions about what a leader is, and for that matter, what an entrepreneur is, completely on its head. Our guest today is Randy J. Brothers. Randy is an entrepreneur, business coach, podcast host, and international bestseller. In 2010, he launched Elite Roofing, and in 2018, that company made the Inc. 5000 list as one of the fastest growing privately held companies in the US. I believe he's hit that list twice now. Elite Roofing is also a Guild Quality Award recipient. In 2018, Randy launched the Roofing Academy, and listen to this, it's a consulting firm and virtual training platform which helps roofing companies propel their business to success. That's pretty cool, right? Randy Brothers is also the host of the Start, Build, Grow Show, a weekly Facebook Live podcast that includes guests from the roofing and trades industry. He is also the author of Start It, Build It, Grow It, The Contractor's Guide to Success, and it's an international #1 bestseller in 4 business categories in 6 countries. So, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and help me welcome the man who is bringing leadership and entrepreneurship to the blue-collar construction grades, Mr. Randy Brothers!
What is up, my friend? Thank you for having me. That was about as good as it gets.
There you go, mate.
Side. Let me guess, you've done this a couple times.
Should we send that to your wife and the kids?
Absolutely. Yeah, it may help out a little bit.
when you're in shit with the wife, you just put that on.
You have to hear the audio, yeah.
It's
I know you're mad.
Playing in the background.
Rough day, babe. Here, listen to this.
Yeah, I know you're upset with me, honey, but just listen to this.
You know what? They could care less about all that crap. My wife and kids, they keep me humble for sure,
I'm sure. So, Randy, where we always like to start the show is to start by asking, who is someone that we might not know or may never have heard of or may never have even considered who's been a really major influence on you and your leadership?
Oh, man. That's tough. It's funny. I just got off the phone call with my mentor. He's actually he's become our CFO for our company, and he's kind of he actually in his history he focuses on turnaround. Mm-hmm. So he's known as one of the top turnaround guys in the entire country, and I got connected to him through a kind of a roundabout way. Sparks flew, and we have calls weekly. He works with our whole financial team. He's helped us build an entire financial team and really laid a foundation for just amazing transformations in a company that I thought was already in pretty good shape. So his name is Patrick, and he's been a huge influencer on me on the financial side of running my business by the numbers, but also as just a leader on literally what it takes, straightforward, what it takes to run a business and be a leader in your business.
Well, don't be shy. Tell us his full name.
Patrick Reddick. You could look him up, check him out. He's been featured on on some major channels and.
Well, I think it's important that we honor the people who have
100%.
Guided us and mentored us and added value to us and made our businesses better. So that's really good. Thank you for doing that. I want to jump in here by talking about the very thing I introduced, which was entrepreneurship and leadership in a blue-collar world, because we might ordinarily associate saws, hammers, and wrenches with steady jobs and unions rather than entrepreneurship and leadership. Talk to us a little bit about that crossover for you.
So it's interesting because I grew up. I'm a 3rd-generation contractor. I grew up on the other end of a saw as a little kid, just watching my dad build things, watching my grandpa up on roofs, and we came of the I'm of the historical family that like if you want something to build it, you build it yourself or figure it out yourself. They built everything, did their own things, and they were also of the notion of, if you want to build a business, trial and error, do it for 20, 30 years, figure it out, don't share anything, and you can build a great business and pass it on to your kids, right? Mm-hmm. So that was kind of the mentality that I had. I come from an entrepreneurial background, a business background, and I've always just been passionate about entrepreneurship, but couple that with the ability to just build things and the passion for building and creating with my hands and actually creating stuff with my hands. I decided that, hey, when I was in college, I did go to college. You're bred to kind of do that in my space and in my family as well. From my mom's side was, we're going to give you the opportunity, go to college and get a good education, get a good job, how that whole process works. But with me, I was like, that I always loved construction. I always loved building stuff. And I figured out that the construction industry was archaic in the sense that there's a lot of people, low barrier to entry. Anybody with a hammer and a tool belt can start their own business, but very few of them actually know business.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, you know what, how about I do this? I'm going to go to college, go learn business. At the same time, I'm going to learn construction. So I worked 2-3 jobs, worked for a construction company all through college, got a business degree, studied entrepreneurship. And I felt like that would give me an edge and give me an advantage in an industry that I loved. I'm naturally really passionate, and my mind works in a way that I love construction. Put all that together, and and it's things that ultimately have worked out pretty well, and we've been able to have not only a significant impact on myself and my family, but the whole industry and other people and their families as well. And that's really where the leadership side comes in, is and where I ended up writing the book and doing all that. Was I wanted to be able to share that experience and share that journey with myself 15 years ago, that was passionate about starting a construction company, but had no clue what I was doing and no clue about business. And most of us have very little, if any, formal education. So how do we bring business and construction together and raise the whole bar for an entire?
Well, that was what was fascinating to me in our original conversation, was because, you know, I don't think that most people, even actually who start their own business in the construction world, think of themselves as entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
They just don't think of themselves in that way. And the fact that you were driven to take it to entrepreneurship and leadership in the space is quite fascinating. That's why I wanted to bring you on, because it's leadership in a whole different way.
Yeah.
I know you had some things you wanted to say about this, Joel, so I'm going to let you come in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
there.
Whenever I hear this, like when you transition from an area where you think people don't normally come from to be entrepreneurs, I'm always curious, what are the difficulties for blue collars entering into that space? Like, what are really the challenges of them, both in the entering in as entrepreneurs, but also entering in as leaders as their business grows? What are the top challenges you're seeing?
I think the biggest thing is a lot of times when someone starts a construction company, one, the barrier to entry is really low.
Yeah.
So most of the time they're doing it out of a place of either desperation, they need to put food on their table, or they've been working for someone else, you know, on the tools, and their body breaks down and they're like, hey, I can't do this forever, so let me try to start a little business and make all the money to be able to provide for my family. But that they keep it linear, they keep it there.
Yeah.
They don't think, how do I build an infrastructure and take on the responsibility of developing other people to build an actual business out of this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people can't quite grasp that. They want to kind of do everything themselves. They've been raised in this mentality of, if you want it done right, do it yourself. And they can't get out of that. I find it all the time. So many people, you know, one-man bands, they call chuck in a truck contractors, that just never get out of that mentality and never realize that you've got to pass the reins down to other people and share what you know to others and focus on yourself as a leader. And that's going to open up doors of freedom, right? Isn't that what we're all looking for? We all want freedom. We all start a business because we want the idea of, I want to travel. I want to do what I want when I want. Next thing you know, you're handcuffed to this business for 80 hours a week for 20 years and you got nothing to show for it. I want to fix that.
How do you help people that are in that particular space? They're like, I don't know how to set up infrastructure here. How do you actually help them get over that mindset switch of not doing it all on their own? And
sometimes you just got to be blunt and just tell it like it is, and let them know that, hey, sorry, but you don't know everything and you're not good at everything. Figure out what your strengths are, and you got to just let the leash out a little bit at a time, you know, let someone else in, delegate, focus on your strengths, and just repeat that process as much as you can. And then, of course, we built a whole virtual training to help people with that. We wrote a book to help people with that.
Well, I want to come to the training and the book in a minute, but one of the things you talk about that I think is very valid for entrepreneurs, and that is, you talk about people working 80 hours to avoid 40. Tell us a little bit about
that. Well, it's exactly that. I mean, we don't want to work for somebody else. You know, when I became an entrepreneur or started my own business, it was a revelation that I figured out that I'm just not employable. Every job I ever had, I had the mindset of, I could do it better than my boss, or I don't want to be someone telling me what to do. So I'm willing to do whatever I have to do to not have to report to somebody else, and not to have a boss. And then you just go all in and work and work and work and work, and you don't even stop to think about what you're actually doing. You're just, you know, pushing that ball forward and not looking around. Not, you know, like Jocko says, you got to kind of step back and look at it from a different perspective than just narrow-minded out front at leadership, you know?
Yeah, I remember when I first got into business and started running my own business, my friends all said, oh, you must have all the time in the world. You can do anything because you don't have to report anywhere. I was like, yeah, but at midnight, I'm still working. You know, if like we did go out afterwards, I'm still figuring out what I got to get ready for the next day because I have this much time, but it is a hard mentality. And it's almost like, oh, it's total freedom. At first it's not. At first it's a lot of that. And I love that you said, let the line out a little bit at a time. Like when you're opening that up, because a lot of the training is like, you said at first, it was like, find out what you're good at and then find someone else to do the rest. Right. But it's how you do that is that letting that line out. If you just say, hey, I just hire someone and they come into your business, you're going to have a lot of trouble with that. Your touch isn't on it, which is, I think a lot of us want to build it our way. You know, we want to build it right for us and our family and the life that we want to live and how we want to serve our customers. So I just love that you said that, because I don't think a lot of people talk about that process of moving from, hey, I have a job for you, to how do I get you to do it in my company, right? So I can start trusting you and feel like, man, this is someplace I'm almost more excited to see what you're going to come up with than what I would have.
Yeah.
So there's three mindsets here that I'm hearing. So there's the mindset of the worker, and that worker might be in an office. That worker might be slinging a hammer, but it's a worker. It's a job, salary, hopefully health benefits, potential payout at the end of a retirement. That's one. The other side is that of, okay, I'm sick of working. I need to work for myself and becoming an entrepreneur. And the illusions around that are, oh, I'm going to have all the freedom in the world. And what you discover very quickly is you're now working for half the pay and twice the hours, right? Because that is the reality of it for a period of time. And then there's the third level, which is that of leadership. And then how do you put the right people in place so that you're not killing yourself 80 hours, 100 hours, 120 hours a week? So it sounds, the reason I'm bringing up those three mindsets is because I want people listening to understand that you came from a world of where there was the worker mindset. You know, you get a job, you're in the blue collar world, blah, blah, blah. You went and got an education to become entrepreneurial, and you've moved into a leadership position now where you're educating those who've come in at the entrepreneurial level or want to get out of the worker mode. So there's those three positions. Talk to us a little bit about the transition between, because there's a certain amount of societal and cultural conditioning. I know, because I grew up in a blue collar world, around, you know, be one of us, be one of the tribe, you know, sling your hammer, work with, you know, get dirty. And then there's a different, like, ooh, you know, that the bosses are different. And then the leaders, those are a whole other level again. Can you talk to us about the transitions between those places for you, Randy?
Yeah. Well, let me go back to the family. You know, my grandfather, you know, he built a business over a number of businesses, and it took years, 10, 20, 30 years to get here.
Right.
To get to a place where, okay, they own the house, it's all paid for, the family, they have a little bit of retirement, a little bit of savings, you know, and that was it, right? It was like, what's next? Where's the legacy? Where are you building a legacy? And I saw that, and I was like, I get that, and I understand that there's a lot of value in diving in and working every day to learn your master your craft. But there's got to be a better way. Why can't I just expedite my learning and learn faster by learning from somebody else?
Yes.
So then I started seeking out mentors and seeking out people that I can learn from, and doubling down, working 2-3 jobs, working out in the field in the morning, going to school at night, working, you know, waiting tables just to survive, to learn as fast as I can. Because I figured out that, you know, right knowledge is power. Knowledge is speed. The more knowledge, the faster you can get knowledge, the faster you can expedite your growth. And I wanted to be able to take this mentality of, it takes 20 years to build a business. Why can't I do it in 5? Why can't I do it in 3? How do I do it in 5? How do I do it in 3? Take on mentors, learn from people, seek out others, and learn as fast as you possibly can. And instead of working 20, 30 hours, 40 hours, you know, to 60 hours, 80 hours, learning, mastering that, how to swing that hammer, take that same hours and spread it across your education and learn from others, and try to take that same worker mentality, but just quadruple down on your actual knowledge intake. And that's basically the shift I made, the observation I made. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to change the history of what we've been doing here. And early on, I looked for books. I was like, let me read books. They didn't exist.
Right.
right? They didn't exist until I wrote one, and that shift that was the first shift, is understanding that, if I learn from others, I can expedite my growth way faster. And then the next shift comes, is like, okay, now I can work with others and educate others and bring more people together, and we all get better. And all of a sudden, an entire industry starts getting better. And
Right.
that's the level that we're at now.
Well, here's what's interesting to me, again, because the reason I found your story so fascinating is because you've jumped worlds in so many ways, but not jumped worlds and left something behind. You've jumped worlds and I was going to say dragged, but created a path for others. Because one of the things, and this is very much aligned with Joel, is that you have, like you come from this blue collar hammers and nails world, but aside from having a podcast for your people, you have also built a learning platform, a virtual learning platform with courses on it, and you're sharing your knowledge through that. That's not something we think of as like, the guy with the hammer and the nails and the tool belt is going to be on a learning platform, learning digital courses. Tell us a little bit about, and writing a book. Most people go, oh yeah, I'm a construction worker. They're not going, oh yeah, I'm going to write a book and build a learning platform. So talk to us about getting those guys on that. Because I know I deal with corporate leaders who often have a hard time getting their executives to go on those platforms. And here's you going, hey guys, let me tell you about this thing. And they're like, okay, woo, talk to us about, because this is one of the things about innovation and transformation. You are transforming your industry with this. Talk to us a little bit about this, Randy.
There's a changing of the guard happening, man. It is happening, whether we like it or not. And I had on my podcast, we filmed last night, and we talked about how if you're not embracing technology and embracing coaching and learning and digital learning, I'm sorry, but you're going to get left behind. It just is what it is. It doesn't matter what the space is. You want to become a master violinist? It doesn't take 30 years anymore. Go online, find a digital education platform. And I realized that, man, nobody's really doing this in my space, but there's a lot of people jumping in. There's a lot of young people jumping in. And the younger generation, they were raised in this. Mm-hmm. Digital video training and how do I learn things faster? And I was like, let me just try this out and see if there's a market for this. And next thing you know, it's blown up all over the place. And I've even got the older generation coming on board now. They're like, I brought on a client just a couple of days ago who's been roofing for 30 years, and he's like, you know what? And they're only a certain level, right? They're only at a couple $1 million a year in roofing. That's marginal, very marginal in roofing. And so he was like, we want to take our business to the next level. We want to start hiring and building infrastructure, implementing systems and processes. And I want to do that. And I'm like, okay, instead of taking another 30 years, let's start working together. Join my program. We'll give you the documents. We'll give you the coaching, give you the virtual platform to be able to do that. And it's got a lot of buzz. People are really understanding the value of knowledge and the value of their time and the exchange of time for knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you brought up the old guard, and I've been thinking about that a lot more, especially in the blue collar spaces that are starting to develop because tech is moving everything. And there is this old guard industries that are like, they're behind the curve. When you were getting into doing this and training it and trying to connect to people in your space, did you find a lot of like pushback from the old guard of like, it's just not going to work, you're doing it the wrong way? I'm just curious if any of that came up.
I've had that my whole life.
Okay.
Okay. So when I started my roofing company, people laughed at me. They're like, who's this guy? And I was like, you know what? I think this industry is broken. Leadership in the industry. That's why I quit. That's why I started my own business, because the leadership I experienced was the tyrant, the guy that runs around. You mess up, he's yelling at you in front of everybody. Or if you're selling, he's hooking you up. He's your best friend. But if you messed up a phone call, you messed up an order, you're being berated. And I'm like, no, I'm done. I'm not doing that. We're gonna approach this from a new school mentality. Treat everybody fair. Everybody as an equal. Let's actually see what we can do if we build a company the right way, based off more of a white collar mentality. Let's apply that to roofing and see what we can do. Fast forward 10 years, we're at a place now where our blue collar roofing company is completely paperless.
Nice.
That's wild.
We are 100% paperless. contracts, everything's virtual. Our service team runs around with iPads. The technology that's coming on in this industry is incredible. And that's what's great about my podcast is I get to feature all these tech companies that are putting out promos, and so I'm like in line to check them out right when they come out. So we've been on the forefront of that and invested a lot in technology and building out systems and process for our company. And in my mind, the kind of the 4-minute mile that we all, within industries is we start a business because we want the freedom to do what we want. We want to be able to run our business in a matter of the 4-hour work week, right? I've actually done that. I run a multi-million-dollar company, and I spend less than 25 hours a month in that company. And I have my pulse on everything going on. The rest of my time goes towards coaching and training other people.
Fantastic.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I just wanted to say, ladies and gentlemen, that this episode is sponsored by Magcast. Imagine having your own industry magazine. What would that do for your authority? Whether you're a coach, a content expert, or an emerging brand, it's hard to stand out from the crowd. So what if there was a proven way to increase both your perceived authority and professional status in the eyes of your market, and to do it all at once? A way to go from being invisible to getting meetings with anyone that you choose. To find out more, you can go to Magcast, magcast.co, C-O that is, where first-time publishers are creating thriving magazine businesses. That's magcast.co. It's an amazing platform, and honestly, it's transforming industries. Get yourself over there. I want to welcome you back to this particular show, because we are here with our guest and with my co-host Joel Bauer, but we're here with my guest Randy Brothers. He is the founder of the Elite Roofing, which was in 2018 a company that made the Inc. 5000 list as one of the fastest growing private held companies in the US. He's bringing the world of entrepreneurship and leadership to the blue collar world. He's also the author of Start It, Build It, Grow It, The Contractor's Guide to Success, which is a #1 international bestseller in 4 business categories and 6 countries. So let's jump into that, Randy. Tell us about writing a book, because again, platform, okay, that's kind of weird. Writing a book in construction, you mean a manual for how to nail things together? Because I'm not buying that, because I don't nail things together. But tell us about writing a book. The industry.
You don't even know me, but if you did, like my family or my close friends are like, when they heard I wrote a book, they're like, yeah, right. I could barely read. I could barely read. My ACT scores are abysmal when it comes to reading comprehension. I got that whole ADD thing going on.
Right.
Dyslexia, the whole 9 yards. It's funny because I grew up in a family that ultimately we've all become kind of competitive overachievers, if you will. And we joked, just the story is just a pretty crazy. I don't know how much time we have, but my family history is pretty crazy with the step families, divorces, multiple different kids, different places. We've always joked around, growing up, joking about, hey, someday we're gonna write a book about this. Anybody ever had that? Like, I'm sure you listen to this. Who's had that conversation? Someday I'm gonna write a book about this. I don't know what it was. One day I just woke up and realized that, man, we got something pretty significant here. When we got to a certain place in the business where I really realized that, I'm officially in a place in my business where I'm not doing any of the day-to-day. We've built a full infrastructure. We have a fully functioning system, multiple departments, managers, people, all these things in place. We've actually done it. We've actually built this business that I dreamed about 15 years ago.
Right.
And I was like, and as a passion for sharing and helping others, I was like, I'm going to write a book about this. I want to share this with other people, because I remembered distinctly spending hours driving all over town to every bookstore. When I was first starting, they didn't have Amazon back then. Every bookstore, driving all over town to Barnes and Noble, all these things, looking for a contractor education book.
Right.
Like, I wanted to learn construction from a business perspective. It didn't exist. We figured it out. We built a great business, and it was right around the time we were catching those ink. It was the year before we got that, but we started seeing some really significant growth. I mean, we went from like 7 to 15 million in 2 years, and
Wow.
Man, this thing is really happening. And I want to share this with the world. I want to be able. I was passionate about that. So, and I happened to have like a real estate investment that I had back in the day, and we just sold it, and I had a little bit of money to kind of invest in it, and took a year. You know, a guy like me, busy running a business, it's not like you just do it overnight. It took a year. I got about a third of the way through it, scrapped the whole idea, and redid it again. You know, typical entrepreneur fashion. But the idea was to write something that was understandable to the uneducated blue collar guy. So I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to write it in a sense that not only are we sharing tactical strategies on you know, things how to do how to build a significant trade business, but along the lines with having great storylines to really hit those points home. So I
Well, you
wanted to
brought it.
share my story and do education at the same time, and it worked, man. People like it, and we've got amazing reviews, and it's been a fun journey ever since.
Well, you brought up something there that I want to come to, because I believe that in many ways our backgrounds, our histories are often the anchor that can pull us to the bottom of the ocean, or they can be the shoulders on which we stand. And oftentimes it's the shoulders on which we launch ourselves from. So it's not which shoulders which we stand. We, like, let me away from this. You have quite the friendly history. Tell us a little bit about that, because I think that, and how you perceive that has impacted the way that you've gone about things in your life and in your leadership.
Um, well, I've never fit in anywhere. Never been because of this, really.
Yeah, we know
You know,
nothing about that, right, Joel?
so
No,
so
very
yeah,
normal.
right.
We fit in
Most of
everywhere.
us, most entrepreneurs, right? We didn't fit anywhere else. We start a business and we create our own environment. We create our
Yeah, I'm
own reality.
unhireable, so I'm an entrepreneur.
Exactly. Unemployable. So my mom, you know, you know, when I was born, within 3 months, my mom and my dad split, and it was just her and I, and we moved from New Mexico to Colorado, and she remarried by the time I was 18 months old, and I was raised in a mixed family. So my stepdad was African American from North Carolina, from the South. My real dad was a cowboy from Texas, and then and so I grew up back and forth between the two, and my both my sisters are both mixed. So I grew up in a mixed area. We weren't affluent. We didn't have a lot of money. We had enough to survive. My parents worked really hard to try to just put food on the table and make sure I had at least some of the sporting equipment I wanted as a kid. And kind of, so growing up in that environment where I got to experience both sides. You know, I didn't live in the trailer park, but I was one block removed.
Right.
So it was, you know, that dynamic of that kind of growing up, you know, in that level and seeing all the different, you know, the different communities, you know, the different, you know, communities of, you know, the black, the Hispanic, the white, the different communities and how they all came together. And I was able to, I think, got a really good crash course on the reality of life. You know, I got beat up for being white. I got beat up for defending my black friends. Like I didn't know what to do. Like it was no different to me. It was, this is life, you know? So I think that gave me an interesting perspective on people, you know,
How
and
so?
Yeah, yeah.
um, I see people as people, and I am always looking for I'm an eternal optimist, right? If you do those tests, I'm an eternal optimist, and I can always see like the value in everybody, regardless of their history, regardless of their affluency, their race, whatever. I can always see. I have a natural gift to be able to kind of see the positive side and the natural skill set of people, and I think that's helped me my entire life to fit in different places, you know, as kind of a chameleon. But as a business owner and as a leader, I'm able to kind of draw those things out and put people in positions that allow them to succeed. And I think that's really been a blessing that I was gifted with through my history of growing up, you know. But ultimately, you know, being in that sort of family was awesome, very competitive. We really come together, but the whole family broke up too. My parents got divorced the second I went to college. So dealt with that as well. You know, it's like, yeah, you grew up with a stepdad. This is the man that raised you. And then that gets completely shattered. So so many of us, unfortunately, have experienced that.
Mm-hmm.
And what does that do to you? Like you said, it anchors you, it brings you down, or it gives you some strength to kind of come up and use it as a tool. At the
Yeah.
time, it brought me down. You know, I was just getting into college. just left the house. And I basically left the house and didn't look back. I was like, later, forget mom and dad. You guys deal with your own crap. I'm going to go do my thing. And at that point, I was still heavily motivated to be an entrepreneur, but at the same time, all I wanted to do was party.
Yeah.
It was just, party, when's the next party? When's the next, when's the next girlfriend? When's the next whatever? I can get my fix any way I could. And that kind of lifestyle kind of ultimately held me back a little bit. And I ended up, we talk about all these cool things that happened, but 2 years into my first endeavor in business, I went completely bankrupt, failed, lost everything.
So tell, because you and I had spoken before, and I know there's a colorful history there. There's bankruptcy, there's addiction. So talk to us about that path, because you started on the path here to going down that road, and I want to understand that a little bit more. But I also want to understand the turnaround point, because I think that oftentimes we can look at people in those situations, and I'm an advocate for believing that everybody is in pain and everybody's trying to feel better. And we can look down on someone and we can say that they're this or they're that. But the truth is they're just trying to feel better for some pain that's not been dealt with. Talk to us a little bit about the turning point for you as well, that, where you realized the drugs, alcohol, whatever it was, partying had to change.
Well, the leading up to bankruptcy, one of the biggest key elements there was I got to a point where, one story, we were partying pretty hard at this campground, right? A bunch of us partying, and I ended up getting arrested. I get some pretty significant charges, including a felony assault on a peace officer, and I'm sitting in jail for 4 or 5 days.
Wow.
And that was one of those, like, what the heck are you doing with your life? I had just got my business started, things were going well, had a girlfriend, and it was like I just got into this. I let that kind of take over, and that was a big moment. So that ultimately, I didn't have I couldn't just call mom or grandma or anybody and say, hey, I need money to get out of this major offense that I'm in. And it was thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. So ultimately what I had to do, I had to figure out a way to kind of pay for my lawyers and all the stuff to get out of that. And that's what caused the snowball effect, along with the market tanking, that ended up flattening me out, lost everything. Just got going, was on the right trajectory. Problem was I was doing things for the wrong reasons. I wanted to party, wanted to impress everybody. I was trying to be this, this entrepreneur and prove everybody wrong. That didn't really give me a chance as a kid, and that ultimately just came to a head sitting in jail, and then facing bankruptcy. Those two things will really will really put a different perspective on your life, and then from there, that's when I kind of started getting into the roofing space. I got into insurance adjusting, and then started to work for a roofing sales company, another roofing company doing sales. And I figured out that I was really good at that, and that's kind of what kind of got me going. And then I saw the opportunity to start my own company and really do things differently. And my very first employee was my mom. I called mom and I said, hey, I'm starting a roofing company. She had already been working with me, helping me as an assistant for sales, because we did a lot of sales and she was helping me there. So I called mom and I said, hey, I'm going to start a roofing company. I need you to come work for me, and I need you to do it for free. And she
an offer you can't refuse, huh?
Yeah, right. Offer you can't refuse. Hey, mom, change your whole life and come work for me and commit your whole life to this cause, this business that I'm going to try to do after I just failed miserably at the last one I tried, right?
And sign me up now.
Yeah. And what she said to me stuck with me forever, and it's been the anchor for me ever since. So I did grow up in a religious, I don't like the word religion, but a Christian faith-based home, right? My dad was a pastor for a while growing up, and they've been very strong and really try to put really good, positive, faith-based principles, raised us on that, right? So she told me, I will come work for you as long as you always put your faith first.
Wow.
That was
faith in entrepreneurship, or you
in everything.
Sorry, couldn't resist. Couldn't resist.
And to this day, one of our core values, our number one core value, is faith, and it's faith in entrepreneurship, faith in each other, faith in the process, faith in God, all those things combined. But at the end of the day, regardless of what your perception and interpretation of or definition of faith is, you have to have that. And
Right.
and I thank her to this day for telling me that. Like at the time, like, sure, mom, yeah, no problem. But over
Sure.
time, I've really realized that, you know
Yeah.
what, that's
Sure.
it. That is the
It,
anchor for
it's called a
everything.
Hail Mary moment.
Yeah.
Oh God, please save me. I go to church every Sunday. Oh, I'm good now. Sunday's busy. I got football.
Exactly. Oh yeah.
Yeah. You wanted to
Well,
say something there, Joel? I'm sorry.
yeah, you talked a lot about seeing the best in people and, you know, having that desire to really help them out and find the right place for them. I found a lot of the entrepreneurs that I coach that have that kind of, I'll call it heart-centric nature to them. Like, they do care about people. What happens when it doesn't go right? What if you can't find the space for that person? I've seen a lot of business just like kind of suck it up. But what did you do with that? Because it seems unlikely to get to the growth that you've gotten to with just accepting that I have to find a place for someone versus are they the right fit for my team?
Great question. That natural ability is a blessing and a curse. To this day, I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4 family members, but at any given time, we were up to almost 8 or 9 family members working for the company.
Okay.
So yeah, I've even been to the point where I had to fire my own mother. You know, but the reality of it is, you know, yeah, we have that heart, and I had to make that shift as well, to
Mhm.
Yeah.
you know, of not just hiring somebody because they're available and because of your family and forcing them into a position that you need. You got to actually put them in a position. So this, you can use this to your advantage. You know your family, you know your friends, you know people, you know what they're good at, you know what they're not good at. We
Mhm.
have a bad habit of trying to fill a position based off of what we need,
Yes.
not off of what they are good at.
I think
So
that's true across all hiring and all leadership.
100%.
Absolutely right.
So I had to figure that out. At first, you have a pulse, you're a friend of mine, you're willing to work with me. Great, here's a job.
And you're related to me via a womb. You get his job, and we won't pay you.
100%. Yeah. You know, but fast forward and through lots of learning and education and coaching and coaches and mentors and lots of personality tests, we've been able to figure out where my sister, who, I mean, man, you got to get her on here. My sister is 32 years old. She's been with me for 9 years. She started with the company to work as my mom's assistant, just filing paperwork. She was 3 months out of rehab. 9 years later, she's my CEO and runs the company and just got nominated or just got awarded one of the top 40 under 40 business professionals in Denver, Colorado.
Fantastic.
She runs circles around me. Like that was another one. A year and a half ago, I realized, me and my partner realized, are you a good CEO? Are you a good CEO? No, neither of us are good CEOs. Once we figured out what an actual CEO is, not just hey, I created an LLC, I opened a Facebook page, I gave myself a title of CEO, so I'm all of a sudden a CEO. That's what I did, right? And once I realized what a CEO and what a fiduciary duty really meant, I realized that, man, this is not the job for me. Promoted to her. She's just crushing it. High demand, doing speaking engagements, featured in articles, magazines, winning awards. And she's just she's just crushing the game. You know, mixed female in the blue collar construction space, running, you know, one of the top rated companies in the country. It's been a blessing, but that's it. I saw something in her.
But
Gave her an
that's the thing.
opportunity.
That's the thing,
Just
isn't it? I mean,
crushed.
that's the thing of leadership, is to see things in people they probably don't see in themselves yet. You know, I've always said, as a mentor, as a leader, my job is to hold a vision of you that you're not strong enough to hold yet.
Yep.
Keyword is underlined as yet. But I'll hold that until you are big enough, strong enough, powerful enough, have enough ownership that you can step into it, and then I'll step away. That's yours. But oftentimes as leaders, that's exactly what we need to do. We need to create this vision for them, allow them to oh really? Yeah, I guess okay, let me see. And so it's cool that you were able to see that in your sister and step into that with your sister and hold that for her so that she could let go of her own whatever limitations were there, to fully own that.
Well, it goes back to what Joel was saying about, you know, elaborating about the leash thing. Let it out a little bit at a time, right? We gave her this responsibility. Do this to your best ability. Nailed it. Okay, here's another thing. Try this. Do this to your best ability. Crushed it. Try this. Oh, we're going to put you in this role. Now we're going to put you in this role. Now we're going to put you in this role. Okay, I want you to hire an assistant for yourself. Crush that. Hire an assistant. Start developing other people. Next thing you know, she's built an entire infrastructure underneath me, and they all work very well together. They're in the right positions, and they respect the heck out of her. And she's leading. She's leading them, leading her team to success. Hey, again, I can't even take the credit. I just planted the seed and just allowed her to blossom and be the best version of herself. And that's happened throughout the whole company at this point. Just
Right.
about every manager we have started at that front desk.
You've done pretty amazing things. And one of the things I know about leaders and entrepreneurs is that we are fueled and we are fired by things that inspire us, but invariably there has been experiences where, certainly, you know, you talked about in your own experience where you have tried to put out your own fire with alcohol, drugs, partying, whatever it might be. But tell us about an experience where someone else has tried to put out your fire, that internal fire that is within. You know, what kind of messages have you had to overcome?
It's hard to pinpoint someone else because I do enough destruction myself. Uh, you know, one of the things that was up until last year, you know, I smoked marijuana for like a day on the daily.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I always kind of had got to the point where with ADD, it's kind of a medicine, it's legal, there's no issues there now. It's like I've always been on this like it's a medicine, it's medical, blah blah blah. And so I had conditioned myself to know that I work better under these circumstances. So
Mm-hmm.
I just got to a point where I let it just become a normal part of my life.
Right.
And that person that bless her heart, my wife has never liked it, never supported it, but she stuck by me and stuck with me throughout the whole process. And it just came to a point one time last year where I never quite got the ultimatum, but I knew that we were getting to a point where it was like, you literally need to make some different changes in your life, you know, over drinking and daily use of marijuana. And I just got to a point where I was like, you know what, I choose my family, and I'm going to do whatever I can to just take this part of my life, even though I was scared to death because it had been my entire life, 20 something years. And I was scared to death to take that away because I thought I was conditioned. I had like in my mind told myself that the best ideas you've ever had, your businesses have all come under the influence.
Mm-hmm.
And I believed that. So I
want to
was
thank you for
petrified.
being that authentic. Like there's so much in the space where they think that someone has success in their business that suddenly their life is all beautiful and perfect. And I think it gives us a false reality that life is going to end. Like it's like the end of the chapter, but it's like it keeps going. You still go through challenges. That growth is, I think, what keeps people alive. You know,
Yes.
versus like the person that gets massive success and then is massively depressed. You know, there's always this next level. There's always this growth level. And I think, especially blue collar entrepreneurs, they always think it's the other side. You know, it's not us. They have everything. It's posh, and like, but no, it's still real. It's still human. You grow this business, you're still a person. You know, you're still making mistakes. So, what advice do you have for people just being open to that? Hey, more's coming. You know, like it's not all like rainbows after a certain point, but it's amazing still.
Yeah, there will be another truck backing up full of crap at some point, right? And it will dump it in front of you. That's the point, I think, right, Joel?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I live by the saying that the journey is the destination.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
You know, and the journey is where you learn and grow and get the experiences. You know, like you're going on a family vacation, or we just got back from this epic trip to Whistler with our team, right? And the anticipation of a year-long anticipation is like, man, we can't wait. That anticipation, you go on the trip and it's over.
Mm-hmm.
It's just all of a sudden it's over. The anticipation is where the excitement and where the energy comes from, not the day of the you know, we went bobsledding, not the 40-second bobsled ride that took 1 year to lead up to. Right? It's the anticipation, and that's how life is. That's how business is. You just got to embrace the journey and take it day by day. And as long as you're learning and growing and focusing on being the best version of yourself, as well as trying to help lead others to become great leaders, you know, that's where for me, that's where I really have learned where the most fulfillment is.
Yeah. Well, I like you brought in anticipation, because sometimes people go, okay, I'll just live my life and be great and I'll make every day really good. And they don't really feel like they're leading somewhere, which is tough for the human psyche to feel happy. So I love that you added that anticipation, is that passion. Like you got a year long, and I think it is looking for things, good things coming in your life, and always having that like next thing to look forward to opens up that energy, that level, that excitement, that passion to share and be in. So it's a unique take. Like I think people miss it all the time though.
Yeah.
You still have to have things to look forward to. It's not just, I'm going to go bliss out and suddenly going to be okay.
Yeah. It's
And
not
besides, you were
over.
coming to Vancouver. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
You're going to Whistler, mate. I mean,
Oh
you
man.
never even said, let's get together and have a cup of coffee. Not that
Hey,
I'm going to hold that against you.
I'm
Lots.
there next month, brother. Let's go. I'm in
Okay.
Vancouver about 3-4 times a year.
Good.
Now we have
Come
to
up and see me.
anticipate.
Let's go.
Now you've given me something to anticipate.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, I think there's two sides to that. One is you can be too focused on the end goal that
Absolutely.
you lose sight of today. You know, my mentor, I talked about Patrick earlier. He talks about this, how you have to focus on your task list today. What do you have to get done? What can you get done today? Finish that list. Get it done. Go to the next day. Get it done. All the while not losing sight of the end goal, not losing sight of what you're striving for, but you got to focus on today. Make sure that every day counts.
As we get close to the end here, Randy, I want to ask you, what do you think is one of the biggest misconceptions about blue collar and leadership?
I think that it comes down to what people see about our whole industry as they've all here it is. So I can get in front of a group of people and I can just ask them, you know, it doesn't matter the group of people, 100,000, whatever. And I can ask them, hey, show of hands, who's had a bad experience with a contractor? How many of them are going to raise their hand?
Most.
Well over half.
Yeah.
Almost all of them, right?
Having one right now, yeah.
And I don't believe that it's because contractors are innately bad people.
Yeah.
No.
They just suck at communication.
Mm.
That's the truth. And the reality of it is, if the people in our space, there's a lot of good leaders, they just don't know how to lead. Right? They don't know what.
Talk to us about that, because that sounds like a misdirect. They're good leaders, but they don't know how to lead. Okay.
Well, yeah, I guess that is because it goes along the notion too of leadership is trained, right? You can teach leadership, right? You know, and I focus the majority of my spare time on developing, learning, reading leadership. I'm always studying leadership, and I think so many people have some natural abilities, but they just don't tap into it. They don't allow themselves to lead. They don't allow themselves to hire and train and let someone else make a mistake. They're so busy trying to protect what they know, or they work so hard to try to do something perfect every time that they miss the boat that you're going to learn when you make a mistake, that someone else is going to learn when they make a mistake. So you kind of got to let other people in. You got to let them come under you and share that knowledge and let them make mistakes. And that's the sign of great leadership. They just need to learn that. They just got to learn that leading is not standing over someone's shoulder, telling them everything, what to do, how to do it, and micromanaging them. Leading them is letting other people make mistakes, letting other people learn, and then guiding them as they develop underneath you. And I think there's a lot of blue collar contractors out there that can learn from that. Is in order to be a great leader, just let someone else in, let someone else try something, let someone else do something, let them make mistakes. They're going to learn, and they're going to respect you for it as well.
Absolutely. So Joel, do you have a final question you would like to ask Randy, or anything you want to say to Randy before we pull it towards the end?
I really like the permission. Like a lot of people they have, I like there's this line through all of what you're saying is like, you keep seeing this potential in people. And so like you said, they were great leaders because you see that potential in them, but that starts with giving themselves permission to do it. And then opening up that thing. I just think that's such a core piece. Then you can then give someone a job and then see how they do and then help them learn from it. And, you know, it switches that role. But yeah, permission to have something go wrong in your business for 5 seconds, especially if it's your baby, you know, and let someone else eventually. Because I mean, how many times did you make? I see it all the time. It's like I probably made hundreds of this same mistake that I'm getting mad at this person for doing. But because it's my baby, I like want them to do it right on the first go.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's such a crucial thing, that permission though, to be okay with it and let it not be perfect all the time.
Absolutely. And I tell people all the time, clients all the time, that, a great company is not a company that gets it right every time. A great company is one that what defines a great company is how you handle things when things go wrong. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. You're
Sure.
going to make a mistake,
Nice.
or the people under you are going to make a mistake. Either way, mistakes are going to be made. How are you going to, what's the process? What's the SOP in place when things do go wrong? And that's what people need to understand. If you want to scale your business, you're going to make mistakes. You can't protect that. You just gotta let
success
it
in
happen.
business is getting good with mistakes, not in spite of them. Like
Yeah.
Yeah,
is learning
absolutely.
from those mistakes, and it all comes down to customers, right? In our space, it's all homeowners, it's all customers focused, right? And some of our best customers, our best referrals, are the jobs that went south, the jobs that had the worst things happen, because we dive headfirst into making it right and learning and making it and fixing it. Everyone gets educated. And next thing you know, that person is the biggest advocate for our company.
Yeah,
And we're
I
too
think that's often the
afraid
case.
to not let that happen. So just give yourself permission to allow others to make mistakes and learn from them, and just own it when they do happen.
So Randy, in a moment, I'm going to ask you to share with our listeners, our viewers, where they can find out more about you and all your resources. But before I do, I always like to finish with a piece of practical advice. And if, as I said, that many of our listeners here are white collar. They are CEOs, C-suite leaders, and often entrepreneurs across the board. And they might have never slung a hammer or anything in that realm. Or they might be like me. If they sling a hammer, people move away. What's a piece of practical advice that you'd like to give our leaders that you've learned from being the kind of leader, the kind of entrepreneur that you are in the world that you're in, that you think that, wow, this would be really valuable. This is a great piece of practical guidance that I could offer to any leader in any industry?
I think, man, I love that, because I think it crosses over all industries. But some of the best advice I ever got is, if you want to be a great leader, if you want to be super successful, find people better than you. Right? I think in the white collar world, it's dog eat dog. I got to prove myself and work my way to the top. And we try to protect others, we try to, cover our own selves to not let others grow, because we want to protect our position at the top of the triangle, right?
Yeah.
We got to flip that. Find people, a whole bunch of people better than you, empower them, lead them to become leaders, and everybody rises, and you will actually rise higher into the top. I think a great leader will see that in someone else as well. So stop trying to protect yourself and actually, empower others and find other people that are actually better than you.
Couldn't agree more. Please tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find out more about you, your academy, all the things that you do, your books, etc.
I think the quickest, easiest place to find me is on Facebook, social media, Messenger. I have multiple pages. The Start, Build, Grow Show page. We have the Roofing Academy page, my author page. They're all there. Just search it out. But my website is theroofingacademy.com. And on there, you can find all the information on our programming, book calls with me, that sort of thing. Get connected. My email, my phone number, all this stuff is on there.
Theroofingacademy.com. You can look for you by name. Is it under Randy J Brothers on Facebook and those places?
So yeah, it's funny. Randy J Brothers is my I guess my author page on Facebook. So I think my regular page is filled up or close to. So check out the author page. That's my public page. Same thing, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, the whole 9 yards. We're on pretty much all platforms.
Fabulous. Joe, I want to thank you for co-hosting with us today. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for dropping your little insight bombs and driving us to deeper understanding. I want to thank you, Randy, for being a great guest and for sharing with us really sort of dismantling a lot of the limitation beliefs that we might have about leadership, and about even, the particular piece that for me was very important is this understanding that we in a leadership role may look at the people that we're leading and say, oh, they will never go for this. And that you're showing very clearly that you can transform an industry of people who you think wouldn't do X, and they do it, embrace it, and grow through it. And that's a really great point. So thank you very much, Randy. We sincerely appreciate it. And for you, dear listener, you can hang out with other conscious leaders and chat about this episode or any past episodes inside of our Facebook and LinkedIn groups. Just look for the Leadership and Loyalty podcast. And if you're ready to develop your leadership and loyalty in your organization, then come talk to us at fullmontyleadership.com. You can find out how you can hire me, Dov Barron, as a speaker or strategist for your organization by going to fullmontyleadership.com/consulting or fullmontyleadership.com/speaking. Full Monty Leadership, where we provide the essential leadership skills to rekindle and amplify the hidden loyalty assets inside of your organization by tapping into purpose. Full Monty Leadership, because you can't outsource authenticity. Thank you for sharing the show with everybody you know. Stay curious, my friends, stay curious about how you have a limited idea about entrepreneurship and leadership, and that maybe, just maybe, there are magnificent leaders waiting to step up to assist you to grow you if you would just grow them. I'm Dov Barron, and I'm here to assist you, tapping into your deep greatness to reach that next level of clarity, focus, purpose, and profit in your business, your life, and your leadership impact. And I am out.